Last week, if you weren't here, we had dived into the identity theme that the Lord has just put before us. And so if you're visiting, we're looking at how God views us. And how he views us is the most important thing that we want to be focusing on and carrying through our life. And then we did a quick turn as we started to look at how does God view our church, our people, this particular locale, this particular place called Yarra Valley Vineyard. And we had a quick look at our vision, which is to reach our world for Jesus, which is on the next slide, to reach our world for Jesus, growing in faith by offering hope and acting in love. Faith, hope and love is what we carry as a people. And so today we're just going to do part 2 of that, and we're going to land in a place where we're just noticing and being alert to what the Father is saying to us for this season. And so hopefully today it'll just clarify some of the things that are very important to us. It'll also reinforce who we are as a community together, and it will also help us kind of get advancing our thinking and how to become that kind of people that he wants us to be, and be that kind of people. And so I used this little happy figure, you'll see on the slide next, this little happy figure called Vineyard Person. And if you weren't here last week, we looked at the foundations and we looked at how we are standing on the Bible and the kingdom of God. And so even the fact that we're doing a series that's really digging deep over the next 5 weeks into Genesis, it's all about how does God view us? How do we see that through his word? And how do we see that through the power of his Spirit speaking to us as we move through the first number of chapters in Genesis? So this happy person, the vineyard person, is also standing on the story, the big story that we are in, the kingdom of God. And we also have 2 legs that are balancing us, that work together, worship and compassion. And I'm just doing this quick recap just in case you weren't here and you're kind of going, what the heck is going on? It was a powerful time last week, and we heard that part of our compassion is moving forward as we partner with Elisha Care. And Jeff Marshall's here sharing some of that. If you haven't seen it, we're going to be dropping that message this week, props on Tuesday. And you'll be able to watch that in full and catch up there. But part of what we're doing is we're digging into our inheritance as well. And you know, when you have an inheritance that goes with you, you can access it now through Jesus. And so we're also pointing to some things that we can access now as a church. When we've been going through the last couple of years through COVID and all the interruptions that we've had to have a posture of interruption, of flexibility, of movement. So this is a very good illustration for us that we can still continue to move and stand with worship and compassion even when interruptions come, even when things come where we have to take a different adaptive view of how we are walking through life together. And so this posture of interruption, all we need to be doing is surrendering and obedience. That's the 2 things that we're responding with. Surrender, yes, Lord, and obedience, just like what you did right now. It was a very prophetic moment where we just surrendered, the Lord's doing something, and we responded in obedience. And so you then got something more through what the Spirit was doing today. So on this happy vineyard person, we're going to look at the thing that's in our core, the hospital, community, being a people who also is a school and an army. And because of time, we're going to just focus on the things that we feel like as elders and as just people that, as we've been talking to you, we're feeling like the Lord is calling us into a couple of these. There's an invitation for us, and I'm going to just give you some of the practicals of what that looks like, and then also ask you, as you're listening, have your heart open to what's my response in this. And so whether you're visiting or whether you're part of weekly rhythms here, you have an invitation coming to you today, and it's from the Father. So let's have a look at hospital. Many of us that come to Jesus, we kind of arrive a little bit needing some care, don't we? Some healing. And so often those of us that have just found Jesus, there's a lot of special care that's needed. It's like we need a hospital to bring the healing and the mending and the restoration. And if you've recently decided to follow Jesus, it's great to have you on board. If you're thinking about that, just be aware that the first point of call might be that there's some healing coming for you, which is going to be so amazing and so freeing. And for those of us that have been on the journey for a long time, or maybe a bit longer than just discovering the life of Jesus, we also need healing, don't we? Have you noticed that we also need to have our bumps and our bruises, our brokenness attended to? And he does that through community. And so we offer, right now, as a community, we offer a place where people can find healing. And we offer a hospital. We offer a place where people can come and sit and be cared for. And so if you have bumps and bruises or brokenness, or if you're aware of some consequences of life that's kind of just hit you, and you might need some care, some tender care, or just some healing that Jesus wants to bring to you, or maybe you've been hurt by some others, consequences of things done to you, it's available to you now. It's in this community of faith that we want to offer that specific care and also attention to our hurts. And so you're going to see on the screen here, there's coming soon slides. We feel like the invitation of the Lord is that we want to again extend our reach by building up our prayer ministry teams. And we're going to do that in a way that's kind of putting some structure, and by that I mean just putting some banks around what's already here. We have a lot of people. Can we just turn it down a bit? It just feels a little bit echoey. We have a lot of people here that have either been really well trained or are currently very active in prayer ministry. And so we want to just get you all together. We want to say, what's the new expression going to look like for us this season? And we will then, using all the collective experience that we already have, we will then build from there and invite others into that. So there's a few steps as we put some banks around that river to build a prayer ministry team that will be available midweek, and a prayer ministry team that will be available specifically for Sundays, so that you know that you've got people that are ready to see healing and freedom each week. Now, we've been doing that generally. We will continue to do that, but we're going to have some target people, the people that know how to come alongside some of the things that you want to bring towards Jesus. He's near to the brokenhearted. Jesus said that it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but it's the sick. I've come not to call the righteous, but to call sinners, he says. So we're preparing for that, believing that there's going to be more coming that will need care. And we also recognise we're people that walk with a limp, and so no longer will we say healing's the last thing you get. Healing can be the first thing you receive from Jesus. You are then healed, and you bring his healing to others. And then we do that again and again and again and again, because we live in a broken world, don't we? Okay, so the other one you'll see up there is Set Free Ministry. God has brought a couple to us from New South Wales, and they're wonderful. They're on holidays at the moment. They'll be back next week. And their names are Harry and Liz Mackenzie. You've probably seen them sitting where Trav is. Have you noticed them not being in that spot? So they've been here since the start of the year, and Harry has led a ministry over 2 decades. It's been so fruitful. It's called Set Free. And so he's going to come amongst us and raise up a team so that we can run some retreats with him at the helm, raising up the skill set that we need to support that. And we are going to see some amazing things happen. Because there's something that happens when we go back to back, when we have a weekend away. There's something that happens that's different than turning up once a week. And so Harry will help to build a team around that with YVV, and then we'll be releasing that team to run some retreats for us, and it's called Set Free. So when he comes next week, I think he's on next week, right, Trav? And he's sitting there, just bombard him with questions about Set Free, okay? Whether you'd like to be a part of the team or whether you'd like to be a part of experiencing that. We're looking forward to how the Lord does that. And that's also part of, if we go back to the happy man, happy vineyard person, used to be called the Vineyard Man, it's still in my head. Vineyard person has an army as well, and so raising up these teams and just saying, let's do this together, is another part of us being an army. And this is an army that doesn't... Aren't you glad that Jesus didn't come and say, let's pick up guns and shoot? That's not the army he calls us to. He calls us to be like the Peace Corps, where we are going out and we are educating, we're building, we're seeing the kingdom expand, and we're seeing healing and relief and peace coming as this army goes out. And we look for where something's not right, and we say, God, put things right. And we take the army view of we're going to deal with this, put things right with Jesus leading us. And aren't you glad that Jesus walked in compassion, that he came with power, but the power was love. And that he came and he says to us, if you hold any power, if you hold any authority in my name, I want you to be authorized by the power of love. That's the rescue mission that we are in. We're here to heal and to restore as soldiers, but also as his kids. And so with that blend, we come not to take over, but we come to heal and restore and set things right. And we do that with him. And we do that by any place that we've seen God's love being violated, we come and pour his love in. Any place that we've seen robbed, we claim that territory back with his love and his healing and his deliverance and his freedom. This whole word of deliverance is pretty important for an army to know what that looks like, because you're delivering people to a new place of peace. And so when we're following Jesus in that, we've got so many models in our minds from movies and all sorts of things, right? And also from probably bad models of what it looks like for people to be delivered from oppression. And I want to say that what's in our heart is not only love, but it's freedom that comes with dignity to the person. And so that's going to be sometimes, if someone needs to be free of oppression, sometimes we're going to see it look very gentle. We're going to see it look very powerful, but look like more someone standing under a shower and gently being cleansed. And it gets washed away. Anything that's mucky or messy in our lives, he comes by the power of his Spirit, and he does that sometimes in a moment, and he does that sometimes over an extended time, which is why we want to have prayer ministry, why we want to have set free. We want to have moments as well as we want to step into that. And so it is normal for us to need freedom, because we're walking in a world where we have things coming at us all the time. It's normal for every one of us, leaders, pastors, people that have just found Jesus, all of us, to find freedom. And often we also need to be delivered from any oppression or any muck that has stuck on us. And so there can be times, and I've seen this, I've had conversations with people, you might be like this as well, where someone will just say, something's not quite right. Something feels, it's like I've had too much caffeine. I've got all this energy in me and I don't know what's going on. It's like, it feels like maybe anxiety. It feels maybe like my mind's racing. Some people describe that, and we can just simply say, you know what? That could be demonic. It could be that you've had something that's landed on you that needs to be set right. And so freedom can look really different for all of us. I want you to hear it's normal and it's what we do. And so as we start talking about prayer teams and set free, it's for all of us. It's normal. It's what we do. It's part of our core. If you're pursuing life with God, you're likely to bump into some stuff that will either need healing or it will need some prayer ministry. It might be stuff from your family story. It might be stuff from decisions that you've made and didn't know that was going to have a consequence. It might be stuff that has just been a lot of mess surrounding you. And as we prayed today, it might be partly to do with what's happening in your families, our relationships. And so we bring it all to Jesus, and he washes away that stuff that's tried to stick with you. And freedom looks really good. You're going to hear us say a lot, freedom looks so good on you. Your face will change, your body will change, things will change in terms of what you're carrying, and you will love the freedom that Jesus is going to bring in this next season. So we look forward to that healing, and we look forward to the army coming with deliverance and bringing peace. And we just say that's part of loving one another. It's part of being a community together. And we're calling you into it, and we're looking forward to seeing how good freedom looks on you. It's also a form of warfare. It's that resistance that we're talking about. As we do that and say no to any dark things, and as we invite Jesus to come and take any of those hooks and that mess away from our lives, we're going to see amazing things, just like the early church did. We're going to see amazing things come to you and through you. So, the other thing that I felt like we just wanted to concentrate in terms of what's important to us is just highlight that we're getting an invitation into community again. And so community has kind of had a hit, hasn't it, in the last couple of years? And community can look so different for all of us. Our expectation can look different. And Jesus has told us that he's building a community brick by brick. And he says, Paul wrote in Ephesians 2, that in him this whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. And you are being built together to become a dwelling place in the Spirit. So there's that whole dynamic that's going on, that every time you worship together and talk about Jesus, there's stuff that's being built in us, and that you have a place to be part of his house, to be part of what he's building. But the part I think that we are wanting to just continue to lean into and grow and mature in is the whole sense of community as family. And I feel like we're a family of believers, and we do that so well, that we have this amazing sense of family here, multi-age, we have all sorts of backgrounds, so diverse. We're a family of believers, and you could literally turn to the person next to you and say, you're stuck with me because we're family. Because it's true. Say it to the person next to you. So you are stuck with each other, and you're stuck with me as part of the family of believers, and it's going to be fun to see how that looks as we press into that. So because community has taken a hit, and because relationships taken a hit, we are having again just to call us to don't forget to continue to buy into, to continue to invest in community among us. And we're making some invitations to some others to come and refresh us in that. And you are welcome to invite others to join us at any time on Sundays. You'll see on the next screen. Coming soon. Oh, there it is already. You're so good, Trav. You've become an expert at this. So over the next few weeks, we are going to have some guests coming just to help us and to serve us and to be among us. And so the first one will be in May 21st. In the middle of our Genesis series, we're going to have Lex and Paul Buckley from the Field Church in Camberwell. You've met them before if you've been around. If not, you will love their heart of worship. And they're coming just to bring some simple worship and join with us. And then 2 weeks later, or maybe 3 weeks later on the 11th, they'll come back and we'll do a bigger celebration where we'll make it just a deep dive into worship with them. Because of who they are, it really makes sense for us to do that. And we will be also having in between that a whole bunch of people heading into the city that will be at the Leaders Conference where all the Vineyard churches come together. So that will be on May 26th. On June 18, this will be a really good one for anyone that you think would be interested in what's happening in the wider world, in mission and community. And so one of the other new people that have been added to us in the last 12 months is Matt Maudlin, and he's got a story to tell. And so I've invited him to come and share about mission and community on June 18. And he is a great communicator. You will laugh. He's got this amazing English accent that you'll also laugh. But he's going to come and talk about what he does as part of his calling and what the Lord's inviting us into as well. And so I look forward to seeing what that Sunday will look like. And then we've got Sam and Ruth Buscombe from Geelong Vineyard joining us as well to come and lead worship on the 28th. Hopefully while you're enjoying your new 20s, Trav. Right? So it's going to be a great time as we celebrate new arrivals and as Trav works out what it looks like to have 3 littlies in the house, right? We are praying with you and for you. Part of our vision is also to reach the world for Jesus, and so one of the invitations is, and we picked up on a little bit of this with Jeff last week, where we were, if you look at the next slide, bringing communities together is also something that's in our heart and something that's in God's heart, and he's inviting us to be creative with that. And so there are a lot of conversations in the background. Some of you are involved in that, and some of you are just talking to the Lord about that. And so keep talking to him about how can we be a church that brings communities together. And we've got some ideas that I'm going to share with you as well as we push into that. So that June 18th is a really great opportunity to come and hear a practical way that we feel like the Lord's inviting us into bringing some communities together. It's going to be fun. I don't want to give away too much, but I know you're all sitting there, tell us more. June 18. Okay, if we're wanting to be a community and kind of restore and redeem some, here's 4 things that you can do today, this week, and into our future. As we're bringing people together in communities, we also want to be a community that's growing, maturing. And so the first thing is simply just decide that you are going to be a community builder. That's what you're about. And we make this happen by helping each other find friendship and relationship and support. And we also do that so well here because we don't have a huge staff. You are very much the expression of our church. And so when people, I don't know, you may have heard this, I hear this every now and then. I've been a pastor for a while, I hear it more than every now and then, that people will say, the church didn't call me. I was sick and no one contacted me. The church didn't do a thing. And then I'll say, oh, that's really awful. So sorry. Did you have no one from the church contact you? Oh yeah, so-and-so talked to me. Oh yeah, so-and-so helped me. Oh yeah, so-and-so helped me. But the expectation was that the staff would help. And we're just pushing that back and saying we are a body, we are a vineyard person, and we can all be part of this expression. And it's not because we don't want to as staff, it's because there's only 2 of us. And there's a lot of people that need to find the connection with Jesus, that Trav and I don't have enough arms. He's going to have less arms when he's holding 2 twinnies. And so we're just calling you again, be really, really, really confident that you are going to be building community as you resolve to do that. And resolve to connect and to attend. We're not just a family that attends stuff, we're a family that belong. And so when you're not here, we miss you. When you're not in your life group, you're missed. There's a gap because you're not there. If you're not a part of a life group, there's a gap waiting for you to come and be a part of it. So resolve to worship together like you have today. Resolve to be a part of what's going on. Connect. And I know it's really hard to continue to connect when we're a church that as soon as we're finished, we have to pack all the chairs up. It's really hard to linger in this place, isn't it? And so I encourage you, resolve to go out for lunch or go for a walk or go on. There's a lot of people right now that are doing water sports. It's amazing. People that love to do things at the lake on the water, they're just passionate about that. There's lots of opportunities that we can connect. Do that. That's part of being a builder of community. Third thing, eat more food. Always encourage that. Eat more food together. All right? So good. We're also looking for places that how can we do that when we've got a bigger group together so that we can actually continue to eat more food, but do that in every size and shape of connection. Do that with a friend, do that with someone new, eat more food together. Nothing better than that. And open our homes again. Let's continue to open our homes. You might need to practice about saying, okay, I'm going to bed now, good night, and let them out. So don't be scared if you're an introvert and going, oh, but the people come and then they just don't go. Practice some new skills. It's okay, we won't be offended if you say, you know what, time to go now. I'll see you next week, or whatever it is, okay? You have permission to do that in a way that suits you as well. Now, in terms of school, I'm just going to skip over that just because of time. And I'm also just going to say that we are people that love to grow and learn. And there are all sorts of environments that we can grow and learn. And so the school part is literally believing that we have things to learn with Jesus. People call that apprenticeship, discipleship, but there's also things like a Genesis series that help us dig deeper. And there's also things like classes that we might do formally. And there's also things like online stuff that you might do with some other people. So the reason we love Alpha is because it's got all those levels all in together. It's got community, it's got connection, it's got food, it's got teaching, it's got the Holy Spirit building and connecting. So let's have a look at the full Vineyard person and see what, Jesus is on the screen. Last time I looked, he was too big for the screen, but well done, Trev. So we have a couple of arms that are reaching out there, and as a Vineyard person, in our heart, we want to reach for church planting and church development. We believe that local churches have power to encourage the kingdom to be seen. The local church does not contain the kingdom, but it's part of a kingdom expression. And we're really convinced of that. And we want to see church planting. And we also want to see church development. And so one of the things that we are wanting to sow into, because you sow into what you want to grow, right? If you're a farmer, you sow what you want to grow. And so we are taking that attitude right now. As elders, we're sowing into what we want to see growing. And so part of that is inviting people like Paul and Lex Buckley, who have started the new church in Camberwell, and they've got stories to tell. And we're inviting them to say, we want to see more of what they're doing. So when they come, they tell the stories, and we say, Lord, we want to see more of that. And so the other thing that I want to put before you that I don't want to put on the screen just yet, let me give you a heads up, especially online. We've been invited to host bringing communities together for the national Vineyard churches in September in this place here. I've asked Mex, would that be possible? So I want to invite you into the conversation as to why we're doing that, so that you can pray that if it's God's will, that Mex will see this as a good opportunity as well for a weekend of celebration here. So if you put this next slide up, coming soon, this is not yet in place until we find out this is the place that we're going to be meeting. But Nicole and Kirk Delaney, the national directors of all the churches in Australia, they are the ones that lead the movement. And so they're the ones that have put this invitation to us. And you may remember that last week we talked about our tithe as a church. We want 10% of what you give, your generosity, to go out beyond us. And so we've decided that for 5% of that, it will go to these two arms, to Vineyard churches, to see new leaders, to see new churches, to see development. 5% of your giving goes to that each week. And the other one that we announced last week is that we felt like the Holy Spirit was prompting us to invest and to give to weekly giving from your tithe. What you give, we then tithe 5% to Elisha Care in Lilydale for 12 months. And that was just such a great thing to celebrate. And Jeff and Linda, we're glad you're here with all your team in the back row. I think you're all in the back row again. I love it. You're welcome. And we're looking forward to seeing how God's going to bring those communities together as we sow where we want to grow. But we don't have a plan yet, do we, Jeff? We're watching what he wants to do. And it might be a little bit like what happened this morning, where someone receives something and says, I think this would be really good. And then we say, hey, let's bring the whole church into this. Let's bring the whole ministry into this. So back to the conference, this is part of our arms. We want to say yes to the things that God wants us to reach for. So can you imagine September the 21st, can you imagine this place full of hungry people? It'll be Victoria coming. It'll be people from South Australia coming. Anyone from New South Wales that want to come. I think Phil and Kath Henry are saying, we'll come back. They're the ones that had visited us earlier this year. So that's what we're saying. We want to say we would like to host that. We're saying yes, and we're waiting to see if that's going to be possible. And so it also is part of, on the Monday, there will also be a church planting session that Kirk and Nicole are running with some guest speakers from overseas who will be there for the whole weekend and will be celebrating with us on that Sunday as well. So it's going to be a little fireplace of hunger, people hungry, of us being able to do things together by hosting, but also by just soaking in that river and in his presence over a weekend. And we're just waiting now to see whether that's a yes from the school as well. So let's just pray, and we'll hold it lightly. But can you start to imagine with us what that might look like? And you're also going to hear that there'll be opportunities, obviously, to serve in that. And I know that that's also another part of how we get to know each other, by doing things alongside each other. So what do you think? Do you like that idea? We think that's a God's idea. Yeah. So I encourage you to be praying, and I promise that as soon as we hear back from Mex whether they think that's something they could accommodate, they'll let you know. But at the moment, that's the direction that we're going to, and that's the way that we're saying, Lord, bring some communities together around us, and let's see over the next few months we can start to build our strength of worship and compassion, and then see what we're walking into by September. And then finally, we'll dig into the head part, which is Jesus is the head, obviously, of the Vineyard person, and when it comes to the church in Colossians, it says that he organises and holds it all together. And so we're looking to him about how he's going to continue to fill us and how he's going to continue to mature all the things that he's said that we should and could and are invited to be in this season. Fresh invitations are coming to us, and we are learning how to be community together. I've just had a sense of, last week we were talking about new wineskins, and I've had this real sense about the head and discipleship and equipping, and really had a longing to see that in a fresh way. And so in the latter part of last year, as well as this year, I've just been running some groups in my home that have been quite different to anything I've experienced, and it's kind of a bit of a learning community, we call it. And it's all about discipleship. It's all about what does that look like over 6 sessions, eating meals together, hearing the heart of what we're doing, reading a book about discipleship culture, and looking at the words of Jesus together. It's been really fun. And I want to tell you more about that as we look at what's it look like to have fresh expressions of discipleship amongst us. Now, some of you are already doing that, and some of you are already leading into that, and others of you have been doing it for years. And we're just saying that's still the organising head that we're going to say, be an apprentice to Jesus. It's the best thing in the world, and bring some others along with you as well. And so we'll share some more about that experiment that we've been doing of new expressions as well, and you'll be able to see some of the fruit that's coming out of that hopefully too as we continue to journey together.